Welcome back to the BookEnds YouTube channel. I'm James McGowan.
Hi, I'm Jessica Faust.
We are literary agents who have taken our popular blog to YouTube to discuss all things publishing. And if you've been following the channel for a long time, you know that we've had all of our agents on the channel for a nice little chat. And today we have our newest agent and subsidiary rights manager, Jenissa Graham.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks for joining. We were just talking before we started the video about the nerves that come with with getting on the YouTube channel and how I didn't even want to do it when we started. So thank you for taking the plunge without any convincing.
Yes, for our viewers, it's been a battle to have every single person on our YouTube channel, including James.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So Jenissa is our newest agent. She joined in the month, I believe it was May 2022, as our subsidiary rights manager, and she is also a literary agent. So Jenissa, BookEnds is not your first job in publishing. You were previously with Writers House. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey to publishing and sort of what led you here?
Yeah, so initially really what led me to publishing was writing. So it was joining the writing community and getting on Twitter and meeting people where I saw the internship opportunity at Writers House. And I was just kind of like, well, why not? Like, if I want to write, let me also learn the business side of what I want to do. And I think that's extremely important. And so I applied and I was part of the fall 2020 class where I was interning for an agent where we were reading queries, doing reader reports, editorial letters, and I fell in love with the submission process. And that's when I first got like a taste of agenting. And I was like, okay, I can see this, and bringing a book from that first stage all the way up into, the final before you're submitting it to editors, which is what I fell in love with. The internship was 4 months, 16 weeks. And then after that, a full-time position came in the subrights department. And I had no idea what subrights is. I think that's a lot of people in publishing. We don't know what it is. And so they're like, oh, we have an opening. I'm just kind of like, well, what is it? Am I selling books in Germany? Like, I don't speak German. I don't know if I could do anything. They're like, no, we're gonna teach you the ropes. And so I started in subrights, and that's when I found the beauty of like a full life book and really how you can expand, from the words on a page to so many different outlets. And I was learning permissions and merchandise and theater and film and TV. And I just fell in love with that to, accompany a primary deal. And then doing all that, I realized that I wanted to find a position where I could do both. And that's when, out of the blue, I saw the position at BookEnds. And I was like, oh, this has to be fate. It has to be destiny. And I met with Jessica, and I knew that I wanted to be at BookEnds from that very first interview.
Well, I knew we wanted you later. I'm going to interrupt quickly because you had a little section in there where I'm pretty sure for a lot of our viewers, it sounded like you were speaking German. So can you explain subrights and licensing and permissions and sort of that whole, what that all entails and what even it is? Because I think for a lot of our viewers, this is all a very new world to them.
Yeah, so definitely. Subrights is anything outside of the primary deal, which if we're, in the US, we'll talk about the US deal that you'll get from SNS, Simon & Schuster, or Macmillan. You might also hear the term foreign rights, and that's talking more of translation rights. But under that umbrella can be audio, translation, like I said, permissions, theater, film and TV, and all those things. And so do you want me to break down kind of each section? And
yeah, go for it.
I didn't bring my PowerPoint presentation. I would have came more prepared. But so let's start off with translation, and that can be depending on the primary deal, which is why so many agents fight for those North American rights deals and everything. So once a primary deal is made, whatever is retained, you're allowed to sell in other countries. So if it's translation rights, you can sell it in Spain, you can sell it in France, you can sell it in the UK, Australia, things like that. And so that's when you're getting those international deals, which comes with that is like a separate advance, which is more money for the author. And that's what we're really trying to gain. Since we know in publishing, a lot of these payouts and advances are broken down now into 3 or 4 payments. It's hard as an author to kind of make up that money, which is why we're all kind of starving artists balancing 3 jobs at a time, bartending and waitressing and doing other things. And so that's really translation rights. And it usually comes with another cover and, a different set of marketing and publicity to accompany that in that country, which is really great. Leaving translation, we can go to permissions. And what I mostly worked on was educational. So, a textbook, Macmillan, educational, Pearson, sometimes even Bloomsbury coming in saying, hey, we want to put this short story or this children's book into our textbook. And that can come with a term of license of 5 or 10 years. And also with that, it's just another way as an author, like there are children learning about, writing and literacy from my short story. And it's not in advance, but you get paid for that as well. And that's pretty much licensing. Merchandise is something that I think is really cute. I see it a lot in children's books. Oh, I love doing so. Yes, so it can be anything from plush dolls. I've seen puzzle pieces. I've seen pajamas and book sets that can go hand in hand.
I love a good
at many
pajama.
outlets.
Oh my God. Don't you think we need an Amy Wu pajama set?
But for adults, like I want a good pajama book set.
Yes.
So.
And I think that's just super exciting. And so there's so many different companies that help with that. Merrymakers, lithographs, out of print that can just, help a book just transform that. They sell it in Barnes and Nobles a lot. And so just selling rights for merchandise, some people consider it hard to retain, but like it's so valuable, and just being able to be tagged in those different things. That's merchandising. We can go into theater, which I think is also pretty cool. And who doesn't want to see like their book on stage? Like, I think that's amazing. I grew up and I played the violin, so I was in orchestra, so I was able to like be a part of plays, and just seeing, that come to life is just great. And so working with theater and just talking to the author, just them saying like, hey, we have a school that wants to bring your book to life to the stage, and then you're able to get paid for that and even get royalties on the tickets being sold. It's just amazing. And I think we all know like the cream of the crop, which is like a film and TV deal.
Yeah.
So being able to see that's every author's dream next to like New York Times bestseller is, I want to be, on the big screen on Netflix. And so just working with that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so you at BookEnds are going to work with Jessica Alvarez a little bit on translation, but your focus is on all the other stuff, which we're really excited about, to see where you take all of that. And it's cool too that you entered. I think this is something that I love for other people to know, that you entered publishing and took a position, and now are taking a second position, expanding that into something that you knew nothing about when you started. And I think that is something that's really valuable for people looking to get into publishing, to know how you can kind of step into it in a good way sometimes.
No, definitely. I think coming into it, when I first started the internship, it was either agent or editor. And I think that's a lot what only people know in publishing. And so just knowing the back end and the behind the scene roles like subrights, like production, publicity and marketing, all that comes with bringing a book to life is so important. And I think it's important that everybody can experience that getting into publishing.
Yeah, and so many different parts of this, like every book requires a village, right? But so many different parts of this industry can be fulfilling in a different way, that I think most book people are like, I want to edit, I want to do that. But when you see all of the other really exciting things that we can do, like making a doll or pajama sets, like all of that is really fulfilling and exciting. And for book people, like sort of in the same way as editing and doing the really creative work too, because it is in a way creative. But you mentioned film, so I feel like we have to talk about that a little bit. What is, like you said, it's every author's dream, right? But what makes a good adaptation? What makes a book ripe for film?
Or TV.
Or TV, yeah.
I think it depends, because talking to different just networks and producers, it depends what they're representing. If it's like Lifetime, Hallmark, they're looking for that more YA adult type of realm. It could be cozy mysteries, it can be teen dramas. When during the pandemic, a lot of animation came up because everything was shut down. So a lot of children's books were getting picked up in options, because we can turn this into an animation series for 2 or 3 years. So I think it depends on what's going on. I know a lot of times certain networks wants to get like the cream of the crop, what's hot right now, what can sustain. So it can be, a YA series that can go 3 or 4 seasons, or a children's book that can go 3 or 4 seasons. And I think that's important.
And do you find that that film sort of has their own market and popularity separate from books, or do you find it's also driven by the success of certain books in the market, or a little bit of both? I don't know if that made sense to you.
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. I think sometimes what can be easier is the books that are on, like, you know, the list and getting hot reviews or popular on Book Talk, because it's already kind of generating an audience. People already know about it. But there's something about those kind of backlist titles that come in during the right time. And it could be like, hey, we're looking for something completely random. And then an agent's like, oh, I have that book from 5 years ago. And they pick it up and then it ends up being a hit on a streaming service. So I think it depends on what they're looking for at that time.
Yeah, I know there are definitely certain film agents who sort of love to build their list on finding these backlist titles that haven't really been looked at and touched. I mean, I guess they're cheaper too, so it might play into it. But but I know there are agents that really focus on that.
Yeah, and I really love this conversation because I think so many authors and our viewers in general really expect that all of that happens immediately, right? And also has this sense of what that success is. So a Hunger Games type movie franchise, right? But there are so many different ways that we can really carve out what makes a successful adaptation, like you said, animation or a Netflix show, or I think that there's so many different avenues in film and TV right now that a lot of people don't think about because we had that vision of success from, you know, probably 10 years ago of what these big movies were. And it's really starting to change and expand. And I think that a lot of authors probably don't think about that. But the timeline thing is super important because we publish this book and the book is going to be published. It's not necessarily going to go away. So there's all of this time where your team on your agent side can really explore this and continue pushing and trying to advocate for that book to become adapted in some way.
Yeah, because sometimes it depends, like, you know, all of a sudden everybody's looking for rom-coms that have been sitting, and all of those books that haven't had any movement in the film industry get all of this attention suddenly, even though they were published sometimes a couple of years prior.
Right. I feel like there have been a couple adaptations lately that are backlist books that are doing really well. And of course, I've been trying to think of them since you brought it up and I can't remember, but I know that there was one recently.
But also sometimes it feels to us like backlist. It's just the film. I mean, we say publishing moves slow. Well,
right.
Try the film world. So they might pick up on a book or be paying attention to a book when it comes out. It might take them another year or two to even option it, and then a few more years before it comes a movie. I remember many years ago sitting down with Janet Ivanovich, and she was talking about when her
subtle name drop.
Well, I mean, it's kind of cool because it is a big, huge success, and her books had been optioned, but it was years, like 10 years at least before that movie was ever made. Right. Even though it had been optioned soon after the first book came out.
Look at Agatha Christie, right? Like all of these movies that are being made are based on her books. And also, I mean, Stephen King, there's always an adaptation coming out, and especially of these older books. Like you just never know when it's going to hit.
Yeah.
But that's why I also love when Jenissa said something that can sustain, because I think that's twofold, right? Sustain a number of series or a number of movies, but also sustain and still be of relevance and interest when that movie or TV show does eventually get made, which not every book has that sort of staying power where it's still relevant to what people are interested in. So I think, you know, like we talk about vampires, right? And how trends change. But what's a book that when optioned and takes all the time to produce can actually still be of interest to people?
Yeah, like I think rom-coms are like a big thing that's gonna always be here. Like everybody loves a good rom-com. Looking at even going back to TV, like Dick Wolf, like Law and Order has been on for 30 plus years. And even before that, he's made like 4 or 5 other police shows. We just know that type of true crime isn't going anywhere.
Right.
So not saying as a writer, you have to write in those genres, but able to keep a plot or a storyline that can sustain that 18-month initial option, that 12-month renewal option, you know, that's 3 years after the fact. So if you have that type of novel, then you're in a better chance, I feel like, of staying in that space.
Well, and I think something that a lot of authors don't quite understand is how different markets can be when it comes to subrights. So a book that could become a huge hit over here you know, another country may not want to touch it because it's just not what their market's interested in. We actually had a nonfiction book that we sold over here that years and years it's been published, it's done moderately well, but it was a bestseller overseas. It did better overseas than it ever did over here.
Right.
You know, and I think the same as film. Just because a book becomes super successful doesn't always mean that it translates into film or into a plushie. It could just, you know, and there could be a lot of variables. Like if it's a heavy science fiction world building, that's a tough one for the film world to create sometimes. Not everything can be Star Wars.
Sure. Well, I love talking about this and can talk about this forever, but you're also, in your new role at BookEnds, a literary agent and looking to take on clients of your own. So I think we all want to know, what's lighting you up? What are you excited about? What are you looking for?
This is what viewers have been fast forwarding to. They didn't care about the rest.
Well, I hope not, because all that other stuff is super important.
Well, I'm excited to start building my list on mainly the middle grade and YA space. So I'm looking for YA contemporary, mystery, romance, sci-fi, fantasy. I love a good dystopian, so I'm really eager to dive into something like that. And then every once in a while, just something random, like throw me a graphic novel, throw me a novel in verse, something that I never thought about representing, but I could fall in love with. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, you mentioned novel and verse the other day, and that really caught my attention because I don't think that's something anybody else at BookEnds is really seeking. So to put you on the spot a little bit, that was a great list of genre. Do you have sort of an MSWL? So to give an example, I'm a sucker for food things. I mean, James and I talk about food endlessly. We report
Like
to
an
each
hour
other when
before
it's
this
time for
video.
lunch, everything. So if you send me sort of a baking, chefy, any kind of food related book, I'm immediately intrigued. Do you have MSWL, things like that, places, people, things that always sort of grab your attention?
I would have to say, like, honestly, right now, sci-fi dystopian. Like, I like to see that creativity of building a new world, a new society. How is that, you know, compared to right now? And I think allowing an author to be in that realm is what's going to really kind of take me out. I'm kind of over 2020 and the pandemic. Like, I want to be somewhere else. So please suck me into another world that I can enjoy.
So you don't want a pandemic book? Or a 2020 pandemic book?
Yeah, I don't want a 2020 pandemic book. If it's a dystopian that has to do with a pandemic, yeah, I'll get into it, but I don't want to be in a pandemic again.
And do you like hard genre science fiction, fantasy, dystopian, or are you looking for more sort of the literary, to call out one of James's favorites, Emily St. John Mandel, sort of dystopian, or are you looking for both things? Or do you have a preference?
I'm looking for both. Like, if you're going to give me something truly in dystopian world, like, I'll be into it. If it's more of like treading along the lines of magical realism, we're still kind of in present day with some magical elements, like, I can get involved with that too. I think really it's that main character that I'm fighting for and rooting for that's going to sell me as well on the rest of the plot.
That's awesome. Awesome. Anything else you want to say? People are looking to submit. Any other secrets?
You're in the hot seat.
I know. I was not prepared for this. Also, a good theme. Like, I think I put on my main support list on the website. It's like, I'm a good theme. So good versus evil, fate versus Tao, you know, identity, like those societal issues. Like, that's really the core of what got me into writing and that underdog story. I'm a huge underdog story fan. And so give me someone to root for, even if it's the unreliable narrator, if it's a character who's a villain who I end up falling for, like, put me in that hot seat when I'm reading the story. Have me question my own beliefs and doubts.
Love it. Love it. And I have to ask, because you've mentioned a couple of times that you're a writer. What do you write?
I was just going to say the same thing.
I write a little bit of everything, which is why I think I want to rep a little bit of everything. Right now, it's mostly YA contemporary, but I'm a big mystery thriller fan. I do dystopian as well. I don't write fantasy, which is the only thing, but I love reading fantasy. So maybe one day.
That's great. James is a writer too. I am not.
Yeah, Jessica's not a writer. She makes that clear.
I'm not a book writer. I'm a blogger.
She's a blogger. Yeah. Which, hey, I couldn't blog. So
There
Yeah.
we go.
that's a whole different beast. Okay. So thank you for sharing all that about your list. We have another East Coaster in the house. So BookEnds, if you don't know, is all over the map, all over North America. But Jenissa, you're newly in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, I just moved April 1st. So I'm in Brooklyn, I'm in
Very
Bed-Stuy. Yeah, literally moved up here, started BookEnds, and I'm in Brooklyn. I love it. I love the energy. It's
Mhm.
electric. And I think that's what I wanted because I'm originally from Georgia. So getting that change of pace is what I was looking for.
Is it a big change?
It is. I mean, a little bit. I went to school at Georgia State, which is in the city. So it's not a
Okay.
traditional campus. And so you're walking 10 minutes to your class and this kind of thing. So I felt like once I went to Georgia State, I was like, okay, I need to live in a major city. And I
You
just felt like
picked
New
one.
York was the place to be. Yeah. So
Me.
out of all of them, I picked New York. And so no regrets. I love it so far. And it's always something new every day when I walk out my building, literally.
Well, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but New York really welcomed you.
Yeah.
Especially on your
Let's talk
first-
about your first BookEnds meeting.
Yeah,
Or
we have to.
Oh, the one I
share.
didn't attend. It was on the agenda, but I was not there. Yeah, you know, New York welcomed me by locking me out of my apartment. And I'm not used to that. You know, I'm usually very pragmatic. I have my keys, I keep a list, I'm a scheduled person. I woke up that day, I'm like, I'm gonna meet my new team. I'm so excited. Let me clean my room. Cause you know how New York is, everything's in a box. So I was like, I don't want them to see my candle and you know, my spray in the back. I did laundry and I walked outside literally 200 feet and I got locked out. 9:30 in the morning. You know, good thing I had shoes on and not my usual bedtime slippers, but I was locked out for about 8 hours and I just walked around the city, you know, walked around, said hi, like, how's it going? I'm locked out, but you know, I'm in New York, I'm living the dream.
it was kind of like a little surprise gift.
Yeah.
Although I will say, so from my perspective, you didn't have your phone, so you weren't able to get in touch with us. And I went from, did she not know about the meeting? Did I fail to tell her? To this, I mean, I don't know her that well, but this doesn't seem like her. To, oh my God, she hates it so much, she's just never coming in. To something bad happened. I don't know how to get a hold of her. It was a real roller coaster of a day for me on this side of it.
And I'm the opposite. Once like 11 o'clock came, I'm like, okay, they're gonna fire me. Like I haven't even earned your first paycheck, and today's my last day. So this is gonna be great.
Honestly, I think that's a story in 10 years we'll still be telling.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, I am glad you got a free day to explore and that you didn't quit and we're all here right now.
You made it to your first YouTube appearance.
Exactly. You know.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Jenissa. I'm sure our viewers are going to love this. If you have not already visited our website, do that. Check out Jenissa's newly minted page. Query her if you have something that might fit her wish list, and keep an eye because big things are happening at BookEnds and we are excited to share them with you. So thanks again for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you back here next time.
Bye, everyone.